morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome everyone to the North Providence Public Safety Complex ribbon cutting ceremony. We have public officials attending in profusion and government officials. And we have residents of North Providence. We have an excellent representation of the entire state of Rhode Island to witness the ribbon cutting for this magnificent building. It is a testimony to the efforts of so many people that this has finally come to fruition. However, to begin today's ceremony, I wish to call upon the Reverend Dennis Keaton to give the invocation. Reverend Keaton.
May we take a few moments now and just bow our heads as we invoke God's blessings upon this safety complex. Father in heaven, we thank you for this safety complex, which houses our police department, municipal court, and fire station. Bless this building and all who serve in it. Grant that all the activities that take place in this complex will keep our community safe and strengthen our well-being of all our citizens. Father, we praise you and we ask your blessings through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
Thank you, Father Keaton. Next, the Pledge Allegiance of the flag will be led by Christian Ariza, who was an Iraqi war veteran. Mr. Ariza, would you kindly come forward?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our national anthem will be sung by Olivia Picard, who is a student in the middle school. She is also Sergeant John Picard's daughter, and you are going to get a wonderful rendition of our national anthem. However, prior to that, Olivia, will you please come up here? Now, this is a big surprise for Olivia, but I happen to know an awful lot of things that are happening that people don't realize. But today is Olivia's 13th birthday. So Mayor Labate insists that he leads everyone in singing happy birthday to you. Mayor, let's go.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Olivia. Happy birthday to you.
Introducing Olivia Picard. Olivia?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous gleaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Our first speaker today is no stranger to all of you. He is the ranking member of the United States Senate Armed Forces Committee. He's a Rhode Island native, comes from humble beginnings, attended the United States Military Academy at West Point, thereafter attended Harvard University Law School. He is a fearless fighter for Rhode Island, has brought thousands of jobs to Rhode Island, sponsored many grants to help all of our communities. United States Senator from the state of Rhode Island, it's my honor to introduce to you Senator Jack Reed.
Ladies and gentlemen, reverend clergy, thank you, Judge Caprio, for that kind introduction. It's really a pleasure to be here for the first episode of Court in North Providence. Thank you, Judge, for all you do. I also want to recognize all my colleagues in government, particularly my colleague, Senator Whitehouse, who did so much to help the mayor in his efforts, Congressman Cicilline, who also worked extremely hard. Of course, Mayor Lombardi and our Lieutenant Governor, Dan Keith, thank you all for being here today, and all of my colleagues in government. This is an extraordinary moment. We're recognizing the service and the sacrifice of the police and fire and public safety officers, not just here in North Providence, but throughout the state and throughout the nation. So it's fitting that Attorney General Peter Nerona is here, Chief of Police David Takoyan, and Major Paul Mattadellini of the Rhode Island Sheriff's Department. Thank you and all the men and women in our public safety for what they do every day to keep us safe. But I particularly want to commend Mayor Lombardi for his tenacity and vision for using the dollars from the Google settlement to invest in public safety in North Providence. Tenacity is an understatement. The mayor was relentless. You know Charlie, when he wants something, he gets it. He goes after it and after it and after it. Literally, ladies and gentlemen, this is the house that Mayor Lombardi built. Thank you. Not often you get open a public facility that costs the local taxpayers absolutely zero because of the mayor's efforts. And generations of North Providence residents to come will benefit from this extraordinary dedication we're seeing today. Now, the mayor is proud of this town. He's proud of this building. There's only one thing he's more proud of, and that's his family. And at this moment, he's particularly proud of his grandson, Nick. I had the privilege of appointing Nick to the United States Naval Academy. Then Nick surpassed all of our expectations. He just got his wings as an F-18 pilot in the United States Navy. He's a Top Gun. So without police and fire protectors here, there are thousands of young Americans across the globe protecting us. He's one of them. Mayor, please give Nick our best and thank you. Thank you very much. This building, again, is a tangible tribute to the mayor, but it's also the hard work of the North Providence Police Department. They started the investigation into Google and to their activities, which were deemed very questionable. As a result, we received federal government a significant sum from Google. But it was the mayor's efforts to make that translation from a large general grant that might have gone to police department to this public safety building. And I'm so proud of what he's done. So we look here today and we can appreciate the hard work of our police and our firefighters, all those men and women that dedicate themselves to protect us. And again, we have to match their dedication with an obligation to ensure they have the right equipment, the best training, and the best facilities. And that's why I'm working with my colleagues, David, Sheldon, and Jim, to make sure that we help out with programs like the COPS program, the Bulletproof Vest Partnership Program, and federal fire grants, so that these men and women have the tools to protect us. We got to keep them working hard because they work so hard for us. Let me congratulate the town of North Providence on this extraordinary safety complex. Thank all of our public safety officers for their efforts and their families too, because no police or fire officer serves without their families. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Senator Reed. You know, when I listen to Senator Reed and I see him, I think of the words of a former great United States Senator, John O. Pastore, when he gave the keynote address at the 1964 Democratic National Convention. And part of his speech, he said, "The sanity of America is the security of the world." Now, I'm going to repeat that. The sanity of America is the security of the world. And we all feel very secure knowing that the ranking member of the Armed Forces Committee in the United States Senate is Jack Reed to protect the sanity of the world and the future of the United States of America. So thank you, Senator, for everything that you do. Our next speaker is a very close friend of the mayor. You know, these mayors are very close-knit. They all have mutual interest and mutual friends. But Dan McKee is not just a friend of the mayor, the former mayor of Cumberland, and now doing an excellent job as the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Rhode Island. So I'd like to introduce the Honorable Daniel McKee, Lieutenant Governor of the state of Rhode Island.
Thank you, Judge. We had a great tour the other day, didn't we, of this building? It's fabulous. It's a tribute to this community of North Providence, and yes, the mayors do stick together. I know that I see Mayor Grevian, Mayor Fung, Mayor Murray's here, other mayors that are here, former mayors, Peter Clement back there. I think that the Google money, we were all a little jealous that the Google money kind of went into one community, a couple communities, but I know that you spent the money well, Charlie, and that's your business experience. Your business experience really came through here, and the fact that you were persistent, you saw how to invest these dollars in a way that is going to be great for this, to not only this community of North Providence, but also the state of Rhode Island, just as Peter Clement did with his funds in terms of the beautiful facility down there that's you know, for the Attorney General's office. So I'm happy to be here. The leadership that has been provided in this wonderful building, you know, it's a tribute. And Charlie, we can't thank you enough for your leadership. You make the mayors proud, clearly in terms of the fact that your persistence, and not only just once did Charlie ask to make sure that the funds were applied in a way that helped our pension, right? Helped the pension here in this community. And then also he asked 3-4 more times to make sure that the fire department was included in this complex. And that is a vision. That's vision that we can be proud of. We are proud of the fact that the police are here, the fire are here. I always said that there's 39 cities and towns in the state of Rhode Island. Each and every one's important. The people who live in those communities are important. And the communities that make up those communities are important. Today we're in North Providence. Charlie, along with your leadership, along with the chief here, and your fire and rescue, and along with your police department, you've made North Providence the place that shines today. And so all we're going to be very proud of you, and we thank you so much for your leadership, and I thank you so much for the invitation to be here today to bring the greetings of the state of Rhode Island. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Dan McKee. There are some office holders today who I had the opportunity to see, and I'm probably going to miss someone, so I'm going to run the risk of introducing those that I recognize. So I want to welcome Mayor Joe Policina of the town of Johnston, Mayor Joe Solomon, the city of Warwick, Police Chief Richard Tamburini of the town of Johnston, former Colonel of the Rhode Island State Police and a great law enforcement officer, my dear friend Brendan Doherty, Mayor of the city of Cranston, Alan Fung, and the Chief of the Providence Police Department, who I work very closely with, and that's Chief Hugh Clemens. So, and as Senator Reid has already pointed out, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse is with us also. So thank all of you for attending. Now, our next speaker is a newcomer to Rhode Island politics, but he's not a newcomer to law enforcement. He is a former United States Attorney for the District of Rhode Island and is presently the Attorney General of the state of Rhode Island. You know, there's an old saying in football coach Bill Parcells coined this phrase. He says, you are what your record is. That's what you are. And the record of Peter Nerona is that he is a fearless, honest, and fair prosecutor. That was his record as the United States Attorney for the state of Rhode Island. And now he's Attorney General for the state of Rhode Island, and he's doing just a magnificent job protecting all of us, the people of the state of Rhode Island. We are extraordinarily proud of our Attorney General, so I introduce to you the Attorney General of Rhode Island, Peter Nerona.
It's great to be with you and my colleagues in government on this beautiful day to open up this incredible facility. I like Senator Reid, want to recognize Mayor Lombardi's foresight and tenacity in making sure that the money's recovered in the Google forfeiture, the asset forfeiture, we use to good purpose here in North Providence for the pension system that was underfunded and for this beautiful complex. I also want to remember and reflect on how those monies came to be in the first place. And again, it was the foresight of the mayor and leaders in law enforcement, including Major Martinelli, that made sure that the North Providence Police Department was part of the FDA task force which investigated this case. That FDA task force was led by Jason Simonian, who I know is here today. And what I've said about Jason, sometimes I don't think I'd want you as a neighbor. I'd want you as my lead agent on a case, because there is no one who has more tenacity than Jason Simonian. But on that task force were two detectives, Tim Heston and Jim Watts. And it's important to remember their work today, too, because they, like other detectives, were in the trenches when we did that investigation. And there were lawyers on that investigation, too. One's here today, Richard Myris from the U.S. Attorney's Office. He's now the first assistant in that office. A great lawyer, a great prosecutor, worked really hard on that case to make Google account for what they had done. And what Google had done was import or assist others in importing opioids into the United States without a prescription. It was the beginning of the wave of the opioid crisis that we face today. And as I think back to those days in 2011, I miss those tea leaves. I didn't see coming what we now see today. The 400,000 people who've lost their lives to opioid use. 400,000 across this country. And so it's my hope that when those who use substances see this building, they'll have hope as well. That we in law enforcement recognize that this is not a law enforcement issue, but a public health issue. And that a police department, whether it be in North Providence, or state police headquarters, or a state police barracks, or in Providence, or Providence Fire Station, know that it's law enforcement that can provide help. So I congratulate Mayor Lombardi, the town council, the leaders in North Providence over the years that have made this happen. It's a great day for all of you and for all of us across the state of Rhode Island. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Attorney General Nerona. Now, prior to introducing the man of the hour, incidentally, we also have the former Colonel of the Rhode Island State Police, and that's Steve O'Donnell in attendance as well. Prior to introducing the man of the hour, Mayor Lombardi, I have to tell you a story, and you can't make these stories up. I have a summer residence in Narragansett, and I'm putting a new water line in, 700 feet. My driveway is all dug up. It's got mounds of dirt that are about 5 feet high. My yard is dug up. The entrance to my house, the water's shut off, and I have workmen working for me, and one in particular. His first name is Mike. He's actually standing in the back. So on Thursday of this week, Mayor says, I'd like you to, along with Lieutenant Governor McKee, I would like you to come and view the safety complex so that you would feel more comfortable speaking. So most naturally, I was really looking forward to working for an hour and a half through the public safety complex. So I walk up here. Now, you understand, this is Rhode Island, and I see a bucket. And I see someone in a bucket putting up that sign that says North Providence Public Safety Complex. Now, for those of you who read the Providence Journal, there was a big front page picture yesterday. And in that bucket, who do you think was in the bucket?
Mike.
The guy who was supposed to be at my house. Actually, he's standing right back there. So he's standing next to the owner of Federal Sign, Bill Bonnell, and he said, the mayor said I had to be here. I said, well, when you send me the bill for my water line, send it to the mayor. Be prepared, Mayor. At any rate, we had an unbelievable visit, and it really is an honor for me to introduce to you. No, I don't have to tell you the exploits, the accomplishments of your mayor, Charles Lombardi. You know, he is defined by his excellent management of finances. He's defined by his integrity and honesty in the government. I never knew Charlie. As a matter of fact, I met the mayor through my dear and lifelong friend, former Mayor Richard Foster. Our relatives, Richard Foster's relatives and mine, come from the same village in Italy. So our roots go way back. It's the capital of the entire Republic of Italy. It's called Teano, T-E-A-N-O. And just to give you a little historical perspective, at Teano in 1862, Victor Emmanuel and Giuseppe Garibaldi met on horseback because they were engaged in a civil war back then. And based on that meeting in Teano, Victor Emmanuel and Garibaldi signed a peace to unify Italy. So Richard and I, our ancestors, I think, were viewing that and told Giuseppe Garibaldi, if you don't sign that paper, you're going to get this. Anyway, our roots go way back. Anyway, so Richard Foster introduced me to Charlie, and it's been a wonderful relationship. Mayor Lombardi, along with his wife Carol and my wife, socialize quite often. But everywhere I go, people always talk in glowing terms about the town of North Providence, and particularly about their mayor. And you know, probably the highest tribute, I was listening to the radio one day, and I was reading an editorial in the Providence Journal shortly thereafter, and they were talking about malfeasance in government. And both the editorial writer and the radio commentator said, that would never happen in the town of North Providence with Mayor Lombardi. So that's what his record is, a record of accomplishment and fiscal integrity. And so it's my deep honor to present to you the mayor of the town of North Providence, Mayor Charles Lombardi.
Thank you very much, Judge. You notice when I get up to address the mic after the judge, we don't have to move it. So the judge said that he was here a couple of days ago with the Lieutenant Governor McKee. And I just want to let you know, Judge, that there was a reason that we invited you here. You see, we have a new municipal court here. So we wanted to make sure that he took a look at it. We wanted to make sure that he sat in the seat at the court. And by the way, we're going to have to make a couple of adjustments, right? But I'm thinking that maybe he liked it, and maybe we could have our own segment, and it would be now Court in North Providence. So, Judge, you and I are going to have a little chat. So, Lieutenant Governor McKee, Senator Reed, Attorney General Arona, all of our elected officials. Some of my paperwork is mixed up here. I think Joe Policina was up here mixing up my paperwork. Is he still here? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Dick. Without this guy, I don't know what I would do. And I want to publicly, all kidding aside, I want to publicly thank Dick Forza, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, for what you do for me, Rich. In the end, it's you and I. Thank you very, very much. I'd like to welcome all of our residents, friends and colleagues in government to this historical event. Today's ribbon cutting ceremony signifies our commitment to provide all of our citizens with the best possible public safety services available. And there's no doubt in my mind that this complex will be the envy of all other cities and towns. This complex is one that will serve our residents for generations to come. And I'm proud to tell you that this beautiful complex did not cost the taxpayers in the town of North Providence one penny. There are so many people to thank for this success, but unfortunately, time will not allow. But I would be remiss if I didn't take the time to give you a little history of how this complex came to fruition. Our acting chief at the time, State Police Lieutenant Dave Palmer, and I know the chief is with us today. Where are you, Chief? A public thank you to you, Chief. Who is now the Chief of Police in the town of Hopkinton. So he came to my office one day, and he said, we need to have a little talk. I said, what's up? He said that he had the opportunity to place one of our officers with the FDA, the Federal Drug Administration. So I asked the chief, how does this work? Explain to me how this is going to benefit our police department. After a lengthy conversation, I asked the chief, what would you do if you were me? I took his advice, ladies and gentlemen, and the rest is history. Thanks again, Chief. Approximately 2 years later, we were notified by the FDA that there was a settlement of $500 million. And that the town of North Providence, by the way, would be receiving $60 million. Think about that, $60 million. I vividly recall that day that we were notified, by the way. While discussing our options, the Chief of Staff and I, Dick Forster, both said to each other, how do we spend $60 million responsibly? You see, when the DOJ, Department of Justice, entrusted our administration with the responsibility of spending $60 million, we knew we would have to wisely fulfill this overwhelming obligation for the benefit of all of our residents. I'm proud to tell you we accomplished that feat successfully. You see, we spent that money like it was ours. Our chief at that time, Chief Paul Martellini, and a public thank you to you, Chief, spent countless hours establishing a plan for the future. I first wanted to shore up our police pension. We were told at the time this was not a permissible use. But as the senator stated, and everyone here, that was not acceptable to me. And we worked, and we worked. And I'll never forget it, the Justice Department would call every couple of weeks, right, Paul? And ask us, what have you spent the money for? And I told them nothing. They said, you gotta spend the money, Mayor. I said, not until you agree to support us wanting to be responsible with the spending. And at that time, there was no argument that we weren't trying to be responsible, but it was just that it was not a permissible use. So thanks to Senator Reid and White House, our police officers and their families can now take advantage of a police pension fund that's funded to 94%, the second highest in the state of Rhode Island. We then purchased equipment, firearms, cars, and I could go on and on. And we placed resource officers at our schools. Next, we devised a plan to purchase this property, allowing us to build this complex. And we also made sure that our fire department, by the way, the only Class 1 ISO, Insurance Services Organization fire department in the state of Rhode Island, and one of only 64 in the country, was protected. And thanks to Chief Albanese, I see you here today, Chief. Thank you very much. I say that because this building was only supposed to house our police department. Now, it is a state-of-the-art safety complex, including our municipal court, located in the center of town and across the street from our high school that 1,000 students attend. What's better than that? And I can tell you that this complex was completed on time and on budget. But in order to accomplish a project of this magnitude, you need cooperation, support, and dedication. Our committee worked tirelessly, meeting once a week and sometimes daily. But we wanted to make sure that the end result is what you see here today. And for all of those that served on this committee, I am grateful for your time. Without our town council support, and they're all sitting here today, our President Audiello, Councilman Amberigi, Councilman Fablietti, Martone, Di Lorenzo, Giusti, and Bacala. This would not have happened. We worked together very closely to make sure that the funds here were expended wisely. A special thank you for your commitment for perfection. And without the town council's cooperation and support, along with Chief DeCoyan and Chief Silver's dedication, we would not be here today. And thank you, Chief. We had a great construction team here, and in my opinion, can make anything happen. RGB, Robertson, Green, and Beretta. Joe, Dave, Andrew, John. Ladies and gentlemen, this is their design. Thank you very much. All Bob Construction. Glenn, Dane, Jamie, Glenn, Mariah. Glenn, you are the ultimate businessman. Only to please. And a special thank you, and I think I can thank you publicly for the chief also. Thank you very much, Glenn. JR Vinagro Corp. JR, Steve, and Steve. They're responsible for the 1 million gallon storage tank that we are all standing on top of and all of the site work at this project. And thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to again thank you for joining us this morning. From the bottom of my heart, appreciate your support, and I hope you enjoy the tour. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Lombardi. Also in attendance is the former United States Marshal for the District of Rhode Island, Jamie Hainsworth. Jamie? Our next speaker is Major Paul Martellini from the Rhode Island Sheriff's Office. Paul is a former chief of police in the town of North Providence. Now, Paul has come a long way in life. I happen to know that he started off working for Vic's Fruit Market in the deli counter. So that's a testimony to his tenacity, to his determination more than anything else, right? And he reflected great credit upon his family, upon his community, and most importantly, upon law enforcement. So it's my honor to introduce to you Major Paul Martellini. Major.
Could have had this down there. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and thank you for attending on such a wonderful day, sharing a very historic occasion for the North Providence Police and Fire Department. But more specifically, for the residents of the town of North Providence. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Paul Martellini. I had the honor and privilege to work for the North Providence Police Department and serve the residents of the North Providence for 22 plus years, culminating in my final 3 years as acting chief of police. I was involved working with Mayor Lombardi and others in securing the town's portion of the settlement agreement from Google. That ultimately was the impetus for the finances to support this public safety complex. I am honored that Mayor Lombardi has asked me to say a few words on this very special day for the town of North Providence. The opening of this public safety complex
is an event full of joy and emotion. Joy for a celebration of a new beginning, as well as emotion for the closing of a chapter of legacy and devotion to the past. This achievement has been a long time in the making, a day some thought would never come. But thankfully, through hard work, perseverance, and vision, it has arrived. This accomplishment would not have been possible if not for the collaborative effort of certain individuals that worked tirelessly to ensure that this endeavor would be successful. I would like to take a moment to publicly thank those individuals. Former United States Attorney and current Rhode Island Attorney General Peter Nerona. The General was a staunch advocate for the state of Rhode Island, and more specifically, the town of North Providence during the deliberations of the settlement agreement. We are fortunate to have you on our side, advocating for the best interests of the citizens of Rhode Island. Thank you, General. The task force from the United States Food and Drug Administration, led by Special Agent in Charge Jason Simonian. Jay was instrumental and supportive to the town. His commitment to excellence was in full display during the investigation. Personally, I want to thank him for his guidance, his mentorship, and loyalty to the police department during this time, something that I will never forget. Thank you, Jay. It is truly appreciated. Former detectives Timothy Heston and James Watts, members of the North Providence Police Department, who were assigned to the FDA task force during my tenure. Their countless hours of interviews and review of documents were vital to the culmination of this case. Thank you to both gentlemen. Colonel David Ducoyan for picking up the project and carrying it across the finish line during a difficult time. Colonel Ducoyan was here to finish the job and present the final project before you today. Colonel, on behalf of the retired members of this organization, I thank you for what you have accomplished. Thank you to all involved for your countless hours of work on this investigation and your dedication and devotion to public interest. Last but not least, I would like to publicly thank Mayor Charles Lombardi for allowing me the opportunity to be able to be in a position to lead the organization during the time of this investigation and settlement process. For always being there for discussion and deliberation to, as the mayor would say, do the right thing with this money for the town and the residents of North Providence. I recall when this settlement was a possibility. The mayor continued to be a staunch supporter of spending the finances prudently and for accomplishing our goal in a fiscally sensible way. I recall the countless hours of conversation, phone calls, and we know how you love meetings, prior to submitting our proposal. For all that don't know, the original plan called for an exclusively a police complex. However, it was the mayor's concept to present this proposal of a public safety complex to include the fire department. Our vision was to build a complex that would serve the town residents, facilitate the growing needs of the police and fire department, but most importantly, one that the town residents could be proud of. Mayor, thank you for your support, your guidance, but more importantly, your friendship, which I will always cherish and appreciate. I recall being quoted in 2012 when we received this settlement. I said back then, this is an extraordinary amount of money, but good decisions, educated decisions, will be made to enhance the police department and the citizens of the town of North Providence. Well, Mayor, Chief, residents of North Providence, I believe our mission is accomplished. Thank you to everyone for allowing me this opportunity, and I hope you enjoy the remainder of your weekend.
Thank you very much, Major. Also in attendance is obviously the fire chief, who's made significant contributions to this structure beside us. And that's Chief John Silva. Chief? Now it's my honor to introduce your police chief, Dave Takoya. So what about Dave Takoya? Who is Dave Takoya? How did Dave Takoya come to North Providence, which is 142% Italian? How did that happen? He came because of his accomplishments, and because of his dedication, and because of his record. He came before he served in the Rhode Island State Police, like retiring as a major, whose significant dedication to duty and accomplishments will never be forgotten and always appreciated by those who know anything about law enforcement. I know Colonel Doherty, when he was there, relied upon Major Takoyan very, very much. At any rate, so what significant accomplishments can I tell you about your chief of police? Well, you know, sometimes you only have to mention one thing about someone, and then you will know their life's history. Well, first is that Mr. Takoyan is committed to his heritage and to his family. He is proud of his Armenian heritage. I remember him calling me many years ago, saying, "My dad watches you on television. Could you please call her?" And I did, several times. And unfortunately, his dad became ill and didn't make it. But he would always ask me, and always never failed to call back and say, thank you for calling my dad. So many people get to high station in life, they forget where they came from. Dave Takoyan never forgot where he came from. But the significant story I want to tell you about Dave is that I think all of you may know this, he found $4,000 in cash on the street. No one knew that it was lost. It wasn't reported. There was no search for it. You could easily have just put the $4,000 away and forgot about it. But that's not the way Dave Takoyan acts. He is as honest as the day is long, and he is as competent as anyone can hope for in law enforcement. It is my deep privilege to present to you your Chief Dave Takoyan.
Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you for that introduction. And I am a fan of the show. And I will tell you that I've learned a few things. I see the decorum in your courtroom, and I see the passion that you have, the humility, and the compassion as well. But I also notice how you introduce some humor as well. So before I begin my formal remarks, if you'd allow me a little attitude. Mayor, I thought I was frugal with the dollar. And maybe because I'm Armenian, or the influence that my brother Gary had on me, because I know he calls you about once a month for any leftover clothes at the cleanest, that may be. But I have to hand it to you. Let's face it, you come from business. And I don't know if there's 5 locations or 6 now, but you've been successful. All kidding aside, I know you're good with the finances. And when I walk into the foyer area and I look at the dedication plaque, I see Lombardi, Forza, Fortiello, Giusti, Zellinga, Modellini. But I also noticed Nahigian and Takoyan. All these years, Mayor, that I've known you, you said, what do I know? I press pants. I know you knew one thing. You needed 2 Armenians on this committee to keep it on budget. Reverend clergy, elected officials from the executive, legislative branches of government, both federal, state, and municipal, members of the judiciary, my colleagues in law enforcement, fellow chiefs, Brian Boykin from the U.S. Department of Justice, First Assistant Attorney Richard Myros, thank you for being here. Special Agent in charge of the FDA, Office of Criminal Investigations, New England Field Division, Jason Simonian, thank you. Sworn civilian and retired members of the North Providence Police Department, whom I hold in such high regard, thank you for the support that you've given me during this project. Members of the North Providence Fire Department, members of the Rhode Island State Police, our FOP Associate Lodge 13, I see you here today, thank you. Contractors and subcontractors who built this beautiful complex, my fellow building committee members, my good friend Colonel Dougherty. Colonel, I know you always told me to be serious and not smile, so I apologize for the little laughter. It won't happen again. Family and friends, all, particularly my mother Ann, and my two brothers Michael and Gary. Not bad, huh, Ma? Much has already been said in terms of how the funding for this project was realized and about those who were instrumental in securing it for the approval for the use of these funds, and I echo those sentiments. My brief remarks today will focus on the concept of before and after. Many of you who are here today have not had the opportunity to view our old public safety complex just west of here down the road on Mill Spring Avenue. Therefore, you may not truly be able to appreciate where we came from, or the before, and where we are today, the after. Stay with me now on this before and after concept theme, because in doing so, I think when you go for a tour later on, you will appreciate all the more the amenities that this building has to offer our first responders and the community. So let's start with the station. The before was 1974, when the town dedicated at the time its new 26,000 square foot facility for police and fire. The captain was, the chief of police was John Layden, and there were 40 officers on the department. The after is today, September 21st, 2019, when we dedicate this 58,000 square foot building. David Tukoyan, an Armenian American, is the chief of police. We have 64 police officers. Let me speak to the evidence room. The before was a long, narrow hallway, which was converted into an evidence and property storage room, complete with a padlock for security. The after today is a highly secure evidence and property storage room, complete with a biometric fingerprint reader in order to gain access, high-density storage, dedicated rooms to store narcotics and high-risk evidence. On to the crime lab. The before was an old photo lab, which was converted into an evidence processing room. The after is an 800 square foot state-of-the-art crime lab located directly adjacent to the evidence room, where we can process, track, and store evidence to ensure its chain of custody. Our training room. Now, when I talk about a training room, I'm not talking about a gym, ladies and gentlemen, although we do have one of those in here as well. I'm talking about a classroom setting. The before, our training room, we didn't have one. You see, the roll call room and the squad room was a training room, a lunch room, a conference room. We used it for everything. The today, or the after, our agency has a dedicated training room. This training room is outfitted with technology and seating to accommodate 40 first responders. They will receive current, relevant, in-service training to better perform their duties. And this training room is shared with police and fire personnel. And that is such an important concept, shared space with our public safety first responders. You see, police and fire, we often respond to situations together. So it just makes sense that we train together. This shared space affords our police and fire first responders the ability to train in a professional learning environment. The Emergency Operations Center, or our EOC. Now, for those who aren't familiar with that, this is a room where officials would typically gather and direct resources during a foul weather event, such as a snowstorm, for example, or an emergency situation. The before, the town's Emergency Operations Center comprised of a small table in a 12 by 20 room with a monitor on the wall and a single phone line. Today, The state-of-the-art emergency operations center within this building has accommodations and seating for all our town department heads, state and federal officials, as well as representatives from various utilities, such as National Grid and Providence Water. And actually, I saw Mr. Carullo here from Providence Water. Ricky, thank you for being here with your team. This state-of-the-art EOC allows town officials to communicate in real time with the State Emergency Management Agency in Cranston on neighboring communities and utility companies in a storm or emergency situation. And let's not forget the community. Keeping the community in mind and the services that this department provides, for example, fingerprinting for employment applications. The before, when a resident required some fingerprints to be taken, such as a daycare worker or an aide, they had to be escorted downstairs into a prisoner processing room, which was located adjacent to the cell block area. Not a very warm and welcoming place, I'm sure you will agree. The after today, now in this beautiful building, folks who require this type of service may have their fingerprints taken in a beautiful community and interview room right off the lobby of this facility, complete with a live scan and computer terminal for online reporting. A convenient, safe, and professional location. Ladies and gentlemen, that's just a small sampling of the before and after. I could cite many more, but because of the heat, I'll stop. In closing, and on a personal level, in addition to my responsibilities as police chief, I also had the honor of chairing the North Providence Public Safety Building Committee. This was the group who was charged with the oversight of this project. I'm extremely proud to have played a role in the success story of this project. And I wish to thank all, let me repeat that, I wish to thank all who had a hand in making this possible, because there were many. We had a great team, particularly RGB, Allborg, Jay Avanagro, and our building committee. I'd like to also acknowledge Deputy Chief Martins, who handled many of the day-to-day operations within the police department. This afforded me the time necessary to monitor this project and shepherd it through to completion. Thank you, Deputy Chief Martins. I'd like to recognize my administrative assistant, Ms. Julie Zanni, who worked closely with me on the finances and the review of every invoice, and I mean every invoice, closely. Lastly, and most importantly, Mayor Lombardi. Mayor, thank you for having the vision and courage to propose the building of this complex and ensure it came to fruition. Without your leadership, we would not be here today. In my opinion, this public safety complex will serve our residents, first responders, and the community at large for generations to come. Thank you, God bless you, and have a great day.
Thank you, Chief Tukoyan. It is now my pleasure to give closing remarks. Everyone waits for the closing remarks. First of all, this building would never have been built unless it was a collective effort from all interested parties, led by one person, and that's your mayor, Charles Lombardi. I had a tour of the building last Thursday, and basically it represents the highest in technology, in law enforcement and in public safety, for both police and fire. It has given them the tools to use to protect you and to treat people who are guilty harshly, and those who are not, to recognize those who are not guilty and exonerate them. Many of you, I think, may have viewed a session of court in Providence. And I am not unmindful of the fact that I get invited in many places because of that program and because of the publicity that has been generated because of that program. And I'd like to very briefly tell you something about that program. This is a lesson in perseverance that I wish young people would listen to. 25 years ago, my younger brother wanted to become a videographer, and we bought him some cameras, and he began videoing police swearing-ins and school graduations, and then was running out of things to film because he had 2 hours on public access. My wife suggested that he film my court program, and I said no. But of course, you know who won that battle. Shortly thereafter, my brother began filming my court program, and it was on public access just in Rhode Island. For 23 years, there was one camera at the end of the courtroom with no one there, and my brother in a jury box to my left filming our court proceedings. And we were on local access. 3 years ago, with the advent of social media, people began viewing episodes of Court in Providence. And 2 years ago, we began getting calls from national syndicators indicating that they were desirous of syndicating Court in Providence worldwide, nationally. Why did they do that? Why? Why all of a sudden, after 23 years, would we get a call from national syndicators saying, we think you should be on national television? And the reason was because they were able to track how many people viewed segments of Court in Providence on social media. Now, without saying anything, I want all of you to think of a number in your head. How many views could there possibly be on social media that they called and said they wanted to put him on national television?
1 million.
In your head, think of a number.
10 million.
I'm going to ask you to raise your hands. How many of you said more than 100 million? No one. Just one. Okay. I don't have much support here. Just one guy. 2 guys. I see Billy Bennell raising his hand back there, Bill Jr. And of course Donna Bennell, because they know they're cheating. Anyway, the number of views that we had that caught the attention of national syndicators 2.5 years ago was 1.7 billion views.
Wow.
We now are over 3 billion views, headed toward 4 billion views worldwide. Now, I tell you this because I'm going to come to a conclusion so it will make sense. As a result of that, I receive mail every day from all over the world. And not only do I receive mail talking about how people feel about our program, they actually now are sending money. I had to hire 2 people at my own expense to handle the mail that's coming in and keep track of the money that they're sending in, that they are requesting that I use to help people that are less fortunate.
Aw, that's great.
And of the letters that I received, worldwide, most people repeat either all 3 or one of these 3 at least words. Understanding, fairness, and compassion. Understanding, fairness, and compassion. Ladies and gentlemen, I am not telling you anything you don't know. We live in a very divided world. We live in a very divided society. We live in a society of the haves and the have-nots. And I address these remarks very simply through my own experience and tell you that there are many people out there who are hurting. And all they want you to do is place your hand on their shoulder and tell them you understand. To be understanding, to be sympathetic, not abuse the power that you have, because there is such a disproportionate between the assets and the power of the individual as opposed to the power of the sovereign. And if you abuse it, then God will have shame on you. And so just lend out a helping hand. Be understanding and be compassionate. Make a concession. And if you make a mistake and you make a mistake by letting someone go who shouldn't have gone, it'll work itself out. But in your everyday dealings, look at the world through the eyes of the poor. Don't look at the world with a cynical eye. Just remember that for the grace of God go all of us. And so I plead with all of you to do that. And remember, someday we're all going to be judged. We're not going to be judged by how much we earn,
but by how much we care. We're going to be judged by the hope that we inspire in the hopeless and the difference that we make in the lives that we touch. Thank you so much. I'm now going to call upon Reverend Joseph Pescatello, the former police and fire chaplain of St. John Vianney Parish, to give the benediction. And after the Reverend Pescatello gives the benediction, will everyone please go to the front doors for the ribbon cutting ceremony. So will you please all stay, make a semicircle at the front doors for the ribbon cutting, and then after that, there will be refreshments and food. You'll be guided to that, okay? Reverend Pescatello, please. I'm looking for a special blessing. That's why I got up before the crowd. I'm just standing here or sitting here staring at my wife, and I think that I need to publicly thank you, Carol, for allowing me to do what I love to do. Thank you, I love you.
Wow, what a homily. With all seriousness, words that are challenging to every one of us. On Monday, the mayor called me and asked if I would say a few words and give the final blessing. That's dangerous when you ask a preacher to speak and say a few words. But I've written it down, so it'll be very, very brief. But I thought, what do you say on a day like this? And all I could think of is as been a great and long-awaited day for all of us in the town of North Providence. And I personally feel honored to be here, as I was honored over the past 7 years to serve as chaplain along with the police and the fire, and honored to serve with such a capable and professional and heartfelt group of men and women. Honored to serve along with Mayor Lombardi, Colonel Boyan, Chief Silva, and former police and fire chiefs, some who are present this morning with us. Although I still consider Westerly my home, if you wonder where that is, it's really in Connecticut. I always felt very much at home here in North Providence. And this building that we dedicate today is filled, until it is filled with men and women who work here, who serve this community, is just a building. Then it takes on a life and becomes a source of safety and encouragement for all of our community, as was eloquently expressed so many times this morning. But from here, the men and women who serve, the people of North Providence, go forth each day and every hour of each day, bringing hope and encouragement to every person in every situation they encounter. So with that in mind, I invite you to pause with me silently for a moment, perhaps a prayer in your own heart, and let us ask God to bless them, particularly the people who serve here and the people of North Providence, and each and every one of us. Go from here in peace and have courage. Hold on to all that is good. Return no person evil for evil, but strengthen the faint-hearted, support the weak, help the suffering. Honor all men and all women, loving and serving the Lord, rejoicing in the power of the Spirit whom we share. And may God bless you all the days of your life. Amen.